I woke up one night to the sound of tiny footsteps running across the hardwood floor of my bedroom. Light, rapid taps, like the bare feet of a child moving fast. But when I sat up, the room was empty and the toy box in the corner was open. I wasn't a kid when this happened. I was 22 years old, just out of college, starting over in a city I didn't know. My first apartment was cheap to cheap, but I signed the lease because it was all I could afford. A one-bedroom on the second floor of an old brick building, with creaky floors and a strange smell that seemed baked into the walls. The landlord was an older man, not exactly welcoming. He handed me the keys without looking me in the eye and muttered something about how the last tenant had left in a hurry. I didn't think much of it. Most of the units looked half empty anyway. When I moved in, I noticed the apartment wasn't completely bare. In the bedroom closet, shoved to the back, was a wooden toy chest. It was painted red, the paint cracked and peeling, with faded stars and cartoon shapes across the side. It looked decades old, maybe something from the 80s. I should have gotten rid of it then, but I didn't. Instead, I left it where it was. I didn't own much furniture yet, just a mattress on the floor, a thrift store couch, a table, a few boxes of clothes. The toy box didn't feel urgent. I figured I'd deal with it once I was more settled. The first week was quiet, though I couldn't shake the feeling that I wasn't alone. It wasn't just the typical new apartment uneasy, it was heavier, like a constant pressure in the air. The kind that makes you glance over your shoulder when nothing should be there. One night, I woke up thirsty around 2 a.m. I got up to grab water from the kitchen. As I passed the closet, I noticed something strange. The toy box lid was open. I stopped. I knew for a fact I had closed it when I moved the last of my stuff in. I leaned in and looked inside. It wasn't empty. Nestled among some old moth-eaten blankets was a doll. Not just any doll. A good guy doll? The kind with bright overalls, red sneakers, a striped shirt, and that cartoonish smile painted onto its face. I knew the brand everyone did. They were famous from the movies. But this one looked worn down. Its face was scratched, one of the eyes slightly clouded, like the plastic had melted. I laughed nervously and closed the lid. It was just an old toy. Creepy, sure, but harmless. At least, that's what I told myself. The second week, things escalated. I'd wake up to the sound of soft tapping, like fingernails dragging across the wooden floor. Sometimes I'd hear a faint creak, like the toy box lid shifting. One morning, I found the doll sitting upright inside the box. I was certain I had left it lying down. Another time, the doll's head was tilted toward the closet door, its glassy eye staring directly at me. It felt like a sick prank. Maybe the landlord was messing with me, or some neighbor had a key. But the locks hadn't been tampered with, and nothing else was out of place. Then came the giggling, high-pitched, childlike, faint enough that I questioned whether I'd really heard it. It lasted no more than a second, cutting off sharply. It always happened late at night, between 3 o'clock and 3:30 a.m. That's when I stopped sleeping properly. The worst night happened about 2 weeks after moving in. It was 3:17 a.m. when I woke up to the sound of footsteps again. Small, light steps crossing the bedroom floor. My heart thudded in my chest. I didn't move at first, just listened. The steps stopped at the side of my bed. I forced myself upright, my eyes scanning the dark. Nothing. Just the faint outline of the closet door open again. And the toy box sits lid wide, yawning like a mouth. Then I heard it. A whisper. Raspy sing-song and far too close. Hi, I'm Chucky. Wanna play? Every hair on my body stood on end. My mouth went dry. The air felt icy, pressing against my skin. I wanted to scream, but nothing came out. My body wouldn't move. I just sat there, paralyzed. And then I don't know how long I stayed frozen like that. When I finally snapped out of it, I slammed the closet shut, grabbed my keys, and left the apartment in my pajamas. I drove around the city until dawn, too scared to go back. The next morning, I decided I'd had enough. I pulled the toy box out of the closet, dragged it down the stairs, and hauled it outside to the dumpster. The doll was heavier than I expected. Its body limp but dense, like it was filled with something other than stuffing. Its face seemed different. The smile sharper. The eyes glossier. I shoved it into the dumpster, slammed the lid, and walked away without looking back. That night, for the first time in weeks, I felt a flicker of relief. I checked the closet. Empty. I locked the door, double-checked the windows, and crawled into bed. But at 3 a.m., I woke to something pressing down on my chest. Heavy. Restricting my breathing. I opened my eyes, and staring down at me was that same plastic face. Its lips curled. Not painted, but actually moving, stretching into a jagged grin. "Miss me," it whispered. I screamed, flung it across the room, and scrambled off the mattress. The doll hit the wall with a dull thud bump. When I turned on the light, it was gone. The closet door was wide open, and the toy box was back, sitting exactly where it had been the first night. Lid closed. Waiting. I left that apartment the next morning, packed what little I had, and never looked back. The landlord didn't even seem surprised when I told him I was breaking the lease. He just nodded, said, "You're not the first," and handed me the paperwork. It's been years since then. I live across the country now. I've built a life. I try not to think about it, but every so often, I'll wake up at 3:17 a.m. The air in my room will feel colder. The shadows will seem deeper. And from the corner, faint but unmistakable, I'll hear that voice. "Hi, I'm Chucky. Wanna play?" When I wake up the next morning, my closet door is always open.